You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
Hey everybody, Dave here. Have you ever wondered where your personal information is lurking online? Like many of you, I was concerned about my data being sold by data brokers. So I decided to try Delete Me. I have to say, Delete Me is a game changer. Within days of signing up, they started removing my personal information from hundreds of data brokers. I finally have peace of mind knowing my data privacy is protected. Delete Me's team does all the work for you with detailed reports, so you know exactly what's been done. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/N2K and use promo code N2K at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/N2K and enter code N2K at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/N2K, code N2K. The U.S. charges a Chinese national for spear-phishing government employees. The feds impose new sanctions on the makers of predator spyware. Dealing with fake data breaches. Researchers discover a critical vulnerability in Google Cloud Platform. D-Link has patched critical vulnerabilities in 3 popular wireless router models. Snowflake ups their authentication game. A U.S. mining company confirms a cyberattack. Researchers identify critical threats targeting construction industry accounting software. Tim Starks from CyberScoop joins us with his reporting on the US Postal Service's ability to meet the challenges of the upcoming election. And Cisco's second round of layoffs hit hard. It's Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Thanks for joining us here again today. It is great to have you with us. The U.S. announced charges against Chinese national Song Wu for spear-phishing government employees to obtain restricted aerospace software. Wu, still at large, allegedly posed as U.S. researchers and engineers to target NASA, Air Force, Navy, and private aerospace companies. He sought access to specialized software, including source code from NASA for aerospace engineering. Wu, an employee of China's state-owned Aviation Industry Corporation, conducted the phishing campaign between 2017 and 2021 and faces wire fraud and identity theft charges. Additionally, the Department of Justice unsealed a 2021 indictment against Hai Wei, a Chinese national working for the People's Liberation Army, for hacking a U.S. communications company. Charges were also announced against Russian national Denis Postovoy for exporting drone components to Russia and other individuals for smuggling UAV parts to Iran. The U.S. government has imposed new sanctions on spyware manufacturer Intellexa Consortium and 5 individuals for their role in developing and distributing the Predator malware. The sanctions, announced by the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, target the group's executives and the British Virgin Islands-based Aliada Group. Predator spyware, similar to NSO Group's Pegasus, is used by repressive regimes to eavesdrop on journalists, dissidents, and politicians through zero-click exploits. The U.S. views these activities as a threat to national security and has frozen any U.S.-based assets of the sanctioned individuals and entities. This move follows previous sanctions in March against other members of the consortium. The government aims to curb the spread of disruptive technologies while promoting responsible development aligned with international standards. Fake data breaches are becoming a growing threat, causing significant panic and damage even when no actual breach occurs. A story from Security Boulevard explores how cybercriminals exploit fear by claiming to have stolen sensitive information, demanding ransoms from companies, and creating chaos. Recent examples include false breach claims against Sony, Epic Games, and Europcar, all of which triggered public outrage and damaged their reputations, despite being debunked. To mitigate the impact of these fake breaches, organizations need to verify breach claims before taking public action. Advanced security measures such as real-time email monitoring and predictive AI can help detect actual threats and distinguish them from hoaxes. Employee training on recognizing phishing attempts and a clear communication strategy for suspected breaches are also essential. As cybercriminals evolve, particularly with the use of AI-generated fake data, organizations must stay vigilant and continually update their security protocols to protect against both real and fake breaches. Security researchers from Tenable discovered a critical vulnerability in Google Cloud Platform that could have allowed attackers to execute malicious code on millions of servers. Dubbed Cloud Imposer, the flaw was found in GCP's Cloud Composer service and stemmed from a risky package installation process vulnerability to dependency confusion attacks. Exploiting the flaw, attackers could upload malicious packages, potentially compromising GCP services like App Engine and Cloud Functions. Google has since patched the vulnerability, implemented safeguards, and updated best practices for secure package management. D-Link has patched critical vulnerabilities in 3 popular wireless router models that could allow remote attackers to execute arbitrary code or access devices via hard-coded credentials. The vulnerabilities, 3 of which are rated critical, include stack-based buffer overflows and improper input validation in the Telnet service. D-Link advises users to update their firmware. The vulnerabilities were reported by Taiwan's CERT, but the standard 90-day disclosure period wasn't followed, prompting public disclosure before patches were ready. Though no active exploits have been reported, D-Link routers are frequently targeted by botnets, making these updates essential for security. Snowflake, a cloud-based data warehousing platform, has introduced default multi-factor authentication and a 14-character password minimum to enhance security following a series of June cyberattacks. High-profile customers like Santander Bank and Neiman Marcus were targeted, with attackers stealing data from Snowflake customer tenants and demanding ransoms. The breaches involved credential stuffing attacks attributed to the UNC 5537 threat group. Snowflake's new security measures, effective from October 2024, aim to eliminate password-only sign-ins and align with CISA's Secure by Design pledge. Stillwater Mining Company, the only U.S. platinum and palladium producer, confirmed a cyber attack this summer that exposed sensitive information of 7,258 employees. Hackers accessed names, contact details, social security numbers, financial information, and medical records. The breach, discovered on July 8th, wasn't confirmed until August 19th. The Ransom Hub hacking group took credit for the attack and leaked the data. Ransom Hub, responsible for over 210 attacks since February, has targeted organizations like Rite Aid and Planned Parenthood. Stillwater Mining is cooperating with law enforcement and cybersecurity experts. Meanwhile, the company recently laid off 700 workers, blaming Russian palladium dumping for driving down prices. U.S. Senator John Tester criticized the layoffs, calling it unacceptable that Russia is flooding U.S. markets with cheaper palladium, which remains unbanned despite other sanctions on Russian imports. On September 14th, researchers at Huntress identified a critical threat targeting foundation accounting software, widely used in the construction industry. Attackers were exploiting default credentials to brute force access to the software's Microsoft SQL Server instance, often exposed via port 4243 for mobile app use. Once inside, attackers used high-privilege accounts to enable and leverage the XP command shell feature, allowing them to execute OS-level commands. Huntress observed over 35,000 brute force login attempts across several affected companies, leading to successful breaches. To mitigate this, Huntress recommends rotating credentials, disabling XP command shell, and avoiding public exposure of the Foundation application. Coming up after the break, Tim Starks from CyberScoop joins us with his reporting on the US Postal Service's ability to meet the challenges of the upcoming election. Stay with us. And now, a word from our sponsor, KnowBe4. It's all connected, and we're not talking conspiracy theories. When it comes to InfoSec tools, effective integrations can make or break your security stack. The same should be true for security awareness training. KnowBe4, provider of the world's largest library of security awareness training, provides a way to integrate your existing security stack tools to help you strengthen your organization's security culture. KnowBe4's Security Coach uses standard APIs to quickly and easily integrate with your existing security products from vendors like Microsoft, CrowdStrike, and Cisco, 35 vendor integrations and counting. Security Coach analyzes your security stack alerts to identify events related to any risky security behavior from your users. Use this information to set up real-time coaching campaigns targeting risky users based on those events from your network, endpoint, identity, or web security vendors. Then coach your users at the moment the risky behavior occurs, with contextual security tips delivered via Microsoft Teams, Slack, or email. Learn more at knowbe4.com/securitycoach. That's knowbe4.com/securitycoach. And we thank KnowBe4 for sponsoring our show. Imagine this. Your primary identity provider goes down, whether it's a cloud outage, network issue, or even a cyber attack. Suddenly, your business grinds to a halt. But what if it didn't have to? Meet Identity Continuity from Strata, the game-changing solution that keeps your business running smoothly no matter what. Whether your cloud IDP crashes or your on-prem system faces a hiccup, Identity Continuity seamlessly shifts authentication to a secondary or even tertiary IDP, automatically and without disruption. Powered by the Mavericks Identity Orchestration Platform, Identity Continuity uses smart health checks to monitor your IDP's availability and instantly activates failover strategies tailored to your needs. When the coast is clear, it's a seamless switch back. No more downtime, no lost revenue, no frustrated customers. Just continuous, secure access to your critical applications every single time. Protect your business from the high costs of IDP outages. With Identity Continuity from Strata, downtime is a thing of the past. Learn more at strata.io. Keep your business moving even when the unexpected happens. That's strata.io. It is always my pleasure to welcome back to the show Tim Starks. He is a senior reporter at CyberScoop. Tim, it's great to have you back.
Always great to be back.
So your recent reporting over on CyberScoop was about some concerns that some election officials have with the US Postal Service as the election approaches. What's going on here, Tim?
Yeah, they're worried about everything across all fronts, really. But we were talking about the US Postal Service, not the band co-headed by Ben Gibbard, I believe.
Fair enough.
There are some problems that they say that they're seeing with lost or delayed election mail, things like mail-in ballots. Some concerns about training, concerns about the processing, facility operations, basically across all the fronts that election mail matters, and people wanting to be able to get their ballots in and get registered and get everything checked and cleared and ready to go. With the rise of mail-in ballots following the 2020 election, we've seen this become a bigger part of the way people vote as a sort of permanent thing. There were obviously very specific reasons it was an issue in 2020, but people have been using it more and more. And so the idea of having some issues at the USPS to deliver that stuff, the risk here is that people will vote and their vote won't count because it didn't get in at a certain time, or there was some problem with the postmarking. And that's what these officials are worried about. It was the representatives of all 50 states and the District of Columbia, led by the National Association of Secretaries of State and the National Association of State Election Directors, saying that the Postal Service, you got to take action now because this could get really dangerous.
Is this a point of frustration where they have previously reached out and they're not getting the type of response they would like to see from the Postal Service?
That is what they say.
Okay.
They specifically said we've tried to contact the election and political mail headquarters, the state regional managers of customer relations, and have not seen any improvement. But, I asked the Postal Service for a comment, and they said they have been very receptive to those organizations and addressed their concerns and are going to continue to do so. So it's a little bit of a he said, she said situation at this point, but it's clear that the frustration that they have is real. The interpretation of how well they're doing is probably somewhere in between the Postal Service is what they're saying and what the election officials are saying.
Do these states' attorneys general have any ability to force the issue? Is this something they'd have to take to members of Congress to see any real action?
Well, if you're talking about states' attorneys general, that's a different thing, right? That's I don't think they have any real recourse. One thing that's been interesting that we've learned about the Postal Service since 2020 specifically is that it's an entity that is a little harder to control for everybody. The Biden administration made pretty clear that they weren't happy with Postmaster Louis DeJoy, but for various administrative reasons, they've not been able to remove him. So I don't think the states have any real recourse other than to keep raising their voice and hoping that this changes. I'm not enough of an expert on the law surrounding, what kind of suits the states might be able to bring on this if it came to that. But it does seem like it would be difficult based on the overall independence of the Postal Service and its ability to not be controlled by even the president.
It's one thing to track the success of ballots being delivered, to have those statistics, but another concern that you point out in your reporting here is the actual safety of the mail, that the Postal Inspection Service are very concerned about violence and potentially dangerous packages.
Yeah, and to speak to those statistics first, the Postal Service says that it got delivery of 99.89% of its ballots from voters to election officials within 1 week. That was during the 2020 election, and they approved on that. It looks like they came down a little bit to 99.3. However, if you look at this on a level of how close elections can be, one of the complaints prior to this letter was from the state of Kansas. The Secretary of State there said that during the primary, late delivery or lack of proper postmarks, that led to nearly 1,000 ballots being ruled ineligible. Those percentages sound pretty good, but if you're talking about thousands of voters, that's still something that could make a real difference in an election. As far as the concerns they have, yes, the Postal Service isn't just wrestling with this. There's been a massive increase in the kinds of threats that election workers have been facing since the 2020 election. This is something that not just USPS has talked about, but cybersecurity officials, who are very focused on things like Jenny Easterly, the head of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, has said this is one of the top 3 concerns that they deal with. Now, that's probably more the infrastructure security side of things, but it gives you a sense of what people are wrestling with on who are working on cybersecurity, also working on election security. And in the case of the Postal Service, the one of the top officials with the Postal Inspection Service had said violence was the number one concern for him for 2024. That the FBI and USPS were working to give guidance to election officials on suspicious packages. So there's a lot that USPS would be dealing with in even less trying times, but with the threats to election workers, they're dealing with a double-edged thing here, where they have to worry about delivering the mail, and they have to worry about delivering the mail that doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah, it's really interesting because as you mentioned, it seems as though mail-in voting is really popular. People really like it, the convenience of being able to do it and get it out of the way and not have to wait in line and, in hot weather or cold weather or all those kinds of things. But along with that comes this extra added burden on the Postal Service to ensure the integrity of those ballots.
Yeah, and during the Trump administration, there were a lot of fears about the budget being cut, and whether they'd be able to handle the influx. Again, to hear the USPS tell it they've handled it pretty well, and they said they're going to keep doing better. As long as this is a part of our lives, mail-in voting has proven to be popular, like you say, and despite the disinformation about it, pretty reliable in terms of being able to accurately identify voters' intentions. So this is a problem that's not going to go away, and as long as there's any concern about USPS being able to deliver mail properly during that crucial time, we're not going to stop hearing about this.
Yeah. All right. Well, Tim Starks is senior reporter at CyberScoop. We will have a link to his story in our show notes. Tim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And now, a word from our sponsor, Cortex. Security teams face a barrage of more security tools create more complexity, more devices need protection, more specialized focus areas create more silos. The security landscape is changing fast. How can security operations transform to meet current threats? Cortex by Palo Alto Networks consolidates SecOps tools into an integrated platform and helps organizations stop threats at scale with AI, automation, and analytics. Learn more at paloaltonetworks.com/Cortex. And finally, as the news broke about Cisco's second round of layoffs in 2024, thousands of employees found themselves grappling with uncertainty and disappointment. For many, Cisco wasn't just a job, it was a community. The networking giant had become a place where people invested their energy, ideas, and passion. It's hard to imagine how it feels when that chapter closes unexpectedly, especially without clear communication from leadership. The impact of these layoffs stretches far beyond the numbers. Behind every statistic is a person with responsibilities, dreams, and ambitions. It's not just the loss of a paycheck, it's the loss of daily routines, camaraderie with coworkers, and a sense of purpose. In times like these, it's easy to feel forgotten, especially when headlines focus on profits and executive compensation rather than the real lives affected. Still, throughout this painful transition, it's important to remember your worth is not tied to your job. Every skill you've honed, every challenge you've overcome, every connection you've made is part of who you are. Even if today feels like a setback, it's just one chapter in a much bigger story, one that still has room for growth, success, and new beginnings. While the road ahead may seem uncertain, remember, you are not alone. There's a community of support out there, and your experience, talent, and resilience are valuable. Don't let this moment define you. Instead, let it remind you of your strength, your adaptability, and the incredible things you're capable of. To everyone impacted by the layoffs, stay hopeful. This is not the end of your journey, but the start of something new. You have so much to offer, and brighter days are ahead. Trust in yourself. you'll find the path that's right for you. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K CyberWire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your team smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. Our mixer is Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Eiben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karp. Simone Petrella is our president, Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow.